Everyone thought the cameras captured everything. But the scariest moment of that season barely made it to air. You saw the dramatic music. You saw the rushed confessional. You saw the coming up next teaser with flashing lights and shaky footage. What you didn't see was the panic behind the cameras. And if you felt like something was off, like the edit skipped over something bigger, you weren't crazy. Because during production of 90 Day Fiancé, what started as relationship tension turned into a real medical emergency. Not scripted. Not staged. Not something production could redo. And for a few terrifying minutes, nobody knew if the season was about to end for the worst possible reason.
Let's rewind. They were already under pressure. Immigration paperwork hanging over their heads. Family disapproval. Money tighter than they admitted on camera. Producers pushing for clarity. Fans already judging before the episode even aired. On screen, it looked like just another fight. Raised voices. Tears. Someone storming out of the apartment while the other sat frozen, mic still clipped on. But what TLC framed as emotional stress was something else entirely. Because after that argument, one of them didn't just calm down off camera. They collapsed. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Production didn't stop filming immediately. Cameras kept rolling for seconds that felt like hours. Crew members froze. Someone yelled for water. Another producer asked if it was real or anxiety. Then the breathing changed. Fast. Shallow. Wrong. That's when the panic actually started. An ambulance was called. Not a dramatic reality TV, we'll drive ourselves to urgent care moment. A real emergency call. Sirens. Neighbors watching. Crew scrambling to cover logos. And somehow, what aired later looked like a minor health scare. But people who were there, they describe it very differently. If you've followed this show long enough, you already know 90 Day Fiancé thrives on emotional instability. Culture clashes. Power imbalance. Financial dependency. The K1 visa clock ticking like a bomb. Stress is the storyline, but this wasn't storyline stress. This was the human cost of being filmed at your breaking point. And if you're here because you've always felt like TLC edits around the real damage, you're in the right place. We don't just rewatch scenes, we connect the dots they leave out. Stick with me, because what came out afterward changed how the cast viewed production forever. Now here's the mini reveal nobody talks about. The cast member had warned producers earlier that day. Not dramatically, not in a meltdown, quietly. They said they weren't feeling well. Dizzy, heart racing, overwhelmed, and filming didn't stop. Because deadlines don't stop. Because rented Airbnbs cost money. Because flying crews internationally costs money. Because drama equals ratings. And when you layer that over months of long-distance sacrifice, one partner leaving their entire country, family, and job, you get something volatile. Let's talk about that imbalance for a second. One person usually holds the financial power. The other holds the immigration vulnerability. That dynamic alone creates emotional pressure that most couples never experience. Add cameras. Add producers asking, can you say that again, but clearer? Add social media trolls waiting to dissect every facial expression. Now imagine having a panic attack in that environment. Only this time, it wasn't just a panic attack. Paramedics later described symptoms consistent with severe dehydration, emotional shock, and acute stress overload. There were whispers of heart complications, nothing confirmed publicly, but enough that filming paused longer than viewers were told. And when the episode finally aired, Reddit exploded. Some fans said it looked staged. Others accused the cast member of exaggerating for sympathy. TikTok clips racked up comments like, "This feels fake." Users debated whether TLC was exploiting mental health for views. But a few behind-the-scenes leaks told a different story. A crew member anonymously claimed that the energy shifted after that day. That producers started adding mandatory hydration breaks. That cast contracts were quietly adjusted to include clearer medical response procedures. You don't make policy tweaks for something minor. Now here's where it gets deeper. The emergency didn't just scare production. It exposed cracks in the relationship that TLC hadn't shown yet. Because during the ambulance ride, According to someone close to the situation, the partner who wasn't in distress didn't react the way viewers expected. They weren't crying hysterically. They weren't screaming. They were distant, almost numb. And when that detail leaked, fans split into two camps. One side said trauma shuts people down. The other side said it revealed a lack of genuine love. Instagram comments turned brutal. YouTube reaction channels slowed down the footage frame by frame. Look at their face. Why aren't they holding their hand? This relationship is transactional. But here's the part nobody was ready for. The emergency wasn't purely physical. It was the climax of months of silent resentment. Money arguments, visa paperwork delays, one partner sending funds back home, the other feeling used, producers encouraging hard conversations right before filming days. I know what you're thinking, couples fight all the time on this show. True, but this time, the stress crossed into health territory. And after the hospital visit, something shifted. The cast member reportedly asked production for fewer filming hours. The request was denied. That's when things quietly fell apart. Because now it wasn't just about love. It was about obligation, contractual obligation, immigration timelines, audience expectation. And here's the mid-story twist that made insiders question everything. The dramatic argument shown before the collapse. It wasn't the first take. There had already been tension that morning. Producers asked them to revisit the topic for clarity. So the emotional peak viewers saw was actually a second wave. Meaning the body was already under strain. Meaning the emergency may have been preventable. But what happened next made everything before this look small, and almost nobody connected the dots. After the hospital release, production continued filming, but the cast member began documenting privately. Notes, voice memos, screenshots of text messages, not to expose TLC immediately, but to protect themselves, because they felt the narrative forming already. And that's where social media chaos intensified. TikTok creators accused TLC of manipulating the timeline. Reddit threads analyzed filming permits. Someone even found ambulance dispatch logs that matched the date of production. The story was bigger than TLC admitted. But there was one detail production never addressed publicly. During the emergency, microphones were still live. Audio captured conversations between crew members debating whether to cut. That audio never aired, and according to one insider, that audio is why the episode was edited down. Because hearing real panic, not dramatic music, changes how viewers see reality TV. It stops being entertainment. It becomes liability. And if you've been following this channel for a while, you already know, the real story is always in what gets trimmed out. Now here's the layer that hurt the most. After the episode aired, the cast member started receiving hate messages accusing them of faking illness for attention. While they were still attending follow-up appointments. While medical bills were arriving. While the relationship was already cracking under the weight of what happened. Because near-death scares don't magically fix broken dynamics. Sometimes they expose them. The partner who seemed distant during the ambulance ride later admitted privately they were terrified of being blamed.
It's such a wonderful opportunity.
Blamed for the
I can't wait to dive in.
Blamed for pushing too hard. Blamed by viewers. Blamed by producers. So they emotionally shut down. And that shutdown created even more suspicion online. It became a cycle. Stress. Blame. Filming. Online judgment. More stress. And this is where everything spiraled. The cast member who collapsed began reconsidering the marriage timeline. Not because of the health scare alone, but because they realized something during those hospital hours. When cameras weren't allowed inside. When producers couldn't prompt answers. When the only person in the room was their partner. They felt alone. And that's when the truth finally slipped out. The relationship had been struggling long before filming started. They joined the show hoping the shared experience would bring them closer. Instead, it magnified every insecurity, money imbalance, cultural misunderstanding, power shift,
and what have you been thinking?
And the emergency became symbolic. Not just a medical event,
I love this
but a
moment
breaking
with you.
point.
Me too.
By
It's
the time the
perfect.
tell-all
I love
taped
you.
months later, tension was
too.
visible, even if viewers didn't know why. Subtle body language, avoided eye contact, defensive responses. Because surviving something traumatic together doesn't automatically create intimacy. Sometimes it creates distance. And here's the devastating part. The emergency forced production to evaluate safety protocols. But it didn't erase the emotional damage. The cast member reportedly sought therapy after filming Wrapped. Not because they regretted love, but because they regretted how exposed they felt at their lowest moment. And TLC, they moved on to the next couple. The next visa deadline. The next explosive dinner scene. Because the machine doesn't stop. But for the people inside it, life doesn't reset after credits roll. So when you rewatch that episode and see the quick cut to commercial, the dramatic music fading, the vague, health scare, caption, understand this. There were real sirens, real fear, real consequences, and a relationship that never fully recovered. Now here's the question that divides fans. Was this an unavoidable emergency caused by personal stress? Or did production push a fragile situation past its limit for better television? Because if warnings were given, if scenes were repeated, if filming continued despite visible distress, then the story we were shown isn't the full one. And maybe that's the point. Maybe reality TV works best when we don't look too closely at the cost. But we will, because the truth doesn't disappear just because it's edited out. And this isn't the only time something like this has happened behind the scenes. There are other moments TLC softened, other emergencies reframed, other relationships quietly damaged. If you want those dots connected too, stay close. Because the next story makes this one look controlled. And trust me, you haven't seen the real version yet. Thanks for watching this video and please subscribe Talent Zone Updates YouTube channel for more update news.